together. And now I would like to leave the floor to the last speakers of the day, who are Alessio Pettino and Jim Stubman. They are going to be introducing two projects of the European Commission. One is the EU SME Centre that we represent today, and also the China IPsme Helpdesk. Alessio is the knowledge coordinator in Beijing. From Beijing, he coordinates technical assistance as well as report and training activities for European SMEs. Previously, Alessio worked on various EU-funded projects in China, including as key expert and non-key expert, covering areas such as China's research and innovation policy, Chinese government R&I incentives, grants and subsidies, the EU-China R&D co-founding mechanism, and the market access for European labs and tech companies. Jim Stubman, who is IP advisor at the China IPsme Helpdesk. He's responsible for the EU-based operations of the project since 2017, and in that capacity, he works closely with clusters, chambers of commerce, and other business support organizations. Prior to joining the China IPsme Helpdesk, he worked as a program coordinator at the European Institute for Asian Studies in Brussels, and as a trainee in the Asia Pacific Department of the European External Action Services. Both Alessio and Jim will explain you how the European Commission helps European SMEs to export and invest beyond Europe through the implementation of these two projects. I hope you enjoyed this session. Alessio, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
and
very
we can
good.
See the presentation.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Laura, and for the presentation. And you introduced me, so I'm not going to spend some more time on that. I would just go very straight to the point. My presentation will be about telling you, sharing with you what we are seeing from here, from on the ground. We are based in Beijing, and what to share basically what we are seeing here from SMEs that come to us, get in touch with us, what are the problems, what are the issues, and based on this to share some tips with the audience. Of course, it's a very big audience, it's a very diversified audience, so it's very difficult to provide focus, like specialized tips for sectors, but so I'm just going to stick to some general principles and considerations that I think without which you should stick to. Of course, I'm also going to provide concrete examples. First, trying to switch slide. Okay. So what we see here, of course, European SMEs still have very, very huge appetite for China. They're interested in China, despite all the tensions that are happening on the political level, despite everything. There is a lot of interest. But at the same time, we see that many SMEs, I don't know the proportion, but I can say that it's a big proportion of SMEs are not very successful. Some fail, or some might be successful at the beginning, but after some years, they either fail or decide to quit. And there are different reasons. I just listed here some of them, which I think are the most common, but of course there are many others. We see, I think the most important one is the lack of knowledge on China. We still see someone thinking that they can sell anything in China because European products are good, high quality. Yes, but those are not enough. Preparation, people sometimes try to rush things. They rush in signing deals because they want to enter the market as soon as possible, but sometimes this rush contributes to make them maybe signing the wrong agreement, or the agreement with the wrong partner, and so on. And lack of commitment. Sometimes only limited resources and time are committed to China. Another reason, working with the wrong partners. For instance, we see some companies, especially in the food and beverage sector, they might sign exclusive deals with distributors, but then this distributor maybe doesn't perform well. So they are stuck with this distributor and with very low sales revenue. Another reason, of course, China is objectively hard, and it's really this is a fact that China is hard. Cultural factors, and of course, I'm referring to intercultural communication, negotiation. Sometimes can go wrong because of cultural things, but also in terms of culture, like corporate culture. Sometimes procedures within a company, back and forth with the headquarters, or being very slow. Those are things that might not some Chinese staff, for instance, might not like on the long term and might quit the company. We mentioned in the previous presentation different role of government in business. Sometimes you're doing very well, but because of some political or government issues, you are impacted. Skyrocketing costs of logistics. We're seeing prices of containers are like 10 times higher than pre-COVID. I think one container from China to Europe. One container from China to Europe costs more than 10,000 euro. I hear some background, some noise in the background. I don't know where this is coming from, but not only logistics, also a high cost in terms of operations. I read some surveys that hiring an experienced marketing officer in China costs more than Europe. Engineers here are extremely expensive. And of course, competition from Chinese companies. So the role of the SME Center is to raise awareness of these issues and try to help you increase your knowledge. So I think the first tip that I can share is to any SMEs interested in China. The first question is, sounds very easy, but actually it's not. It's why China? You should ask yourself why China. And here there are some answers that we receive frequently. One is China is a huge market. Yes, it's a huge market, but it's not a single market. And this was mentioned before in the previous presentations. There are many regional markets and clusters. So you cannot have just one strategy. You have to adapt your strategy for different cities and regions in China. Some restaurants, some supermarkets, some distributors might only be available in certain cities and not in others, and so on. Another thing, China is a huge population. Yes, but actually this population is very culturally diverse. And also there is an increase in preference for local, and this requires a lot of localization, of course, but also customization. You have to be able to make to respond to the needs of individual consumers. Third, another frequent answer is that there is competition, of course, but China is so big that everybody can be a small piece of the cake. I don't think so. I strongly disagree with this, especially companies that are new to the market. You are a latecomer, and actually many segments are already mature, and it's very hard for you to enter these segments, and you certainly will need a lot of budget for entering these segments. China is still cheap? No, this is not true. China is very expensive. Salaries are very high. Logistics. Also, if you want to run events for marketing events, these are extremely expensive, especially in cities like Beijing and Shanghai. Another aspect is China is opening up. Yes, China is opening up, but is in my personal view, at least, it's only doing so in sectors which China needs. Could either be sectors where there is already a very strong domestic competition as domestic companies like new energy vehicles, or in sectors where there is nothing available domestically. So China needs foreign investment. So in short, I'm not saying that you shouldn't come to China. You should consider China. China offers a lot of opportunities, but you have to be good in grasping these opportunities. You have to be patient. You have to be good in identifying them. Otherwise, China is not the only place in the world. There are also other places with opportunities. So a second tip that I have is that after you decided that China is a place that you want to come, then you should ask yourself, you should think about the who, where, when, who, but especially the how. There are different, of course, structures in China. You could come with a joint venture, a WOFI, you could establish a company in Hong Kong. Sometimes you don't even need a company. Sometimes you can just enter the market through cross-border e-commerce first, try the market, and then come with a, go through the general trade. Sometimes you might not be able to sell your product to China. For instance, this is the case of, for instance, food and beverage products, like meat products or dairy products or fruits. If there is no government like agreement between China and your government, then there is very little you can do. You just cannot sell the product to China. You might need to make some adjustments to comply with Chinese standards, and actually Chinese standards in many sectors are not aligned with international standards. And I'm talking specifically, maybe this is more prominent in sectors such as electronics, ICT, but also food and beverage. There are some standards which are not perfectly aligned, but also the packaging. Maybe the packaging that you use in Europe should be adapted to the Chinese consumers. You might need to wait several months before you can obtain a certification. I'm thinking about the China compulsory certification, which is a certification scheme needed for many machinery or electronics or many products. It might take months. Or registering a medical device here, it might take 1 year, 2 years if there are some issues that go wrong during the application. You need to identify the right time to launch a product or campaign. There are many festivals, shopping festivals that provide a good opportunity, but they are not necessarily a good entry point, because nobody knows you. Maybe you should start before these events. Our suggestion is also to focus on 1 or 2 cities rather than trying to take China, all China. Maybe just focus on 1 city first. Of course, no matter what, you have to work with local partners, being it distributors, consultants, lawyers. You have to work with people on the ground, and it will be very useful if you have people on the ground so that they can follow this the communication directly. And of course, another thing is that you have to be a big budget. Some people, this is very common actually. Some people, some companies come to us and say, I have budget to run operations for a few months, for 6 months, and then I plan to reinvest the revenue that I gain in the meantime. Well, it's very, very hard that you will generate enough revenue to sustain your operations for the future. So you should prepare to run your operations for several months, I would say 1 year, 2 years, without expecting revenue. So in short, China is not a side project. You have to be 100% ready and committed to China. If not, if it's just one of your projects, then my suggestion is don't do it. Then we have the EU SME Centre actually has a self-diagnosis tool, which is a very interesting tool that we designed to help European SMEs to, of course, increase their knowledge about China, to know how things work, also in different sectors relating to products or tax or business environment. And I'm going to show you a video, which I hope you can see. And basically, this is how this it's based on questions. There are different tools for products, business environment. At the beginning, there is a short form to fill, which allows us to collect statistics. And then here there are questions and different questions. And after you complete the quiz, you get a score. It will tell you a list of good practices, and it will tell you the specific answers to these questions. And we link to external content that we have, FAQs or additional reports that we have. So we invite you, or recordings of previous webinars that we have done. So we really invite you to check this out and of course, try it out, and then come back to us with more detailed questions if you have. So another thing which I like particularly is that, they like to say, of course, is that don't think you are an European SME, you're an European expert, don't think you are special. I think we still see a lot of Europeans coming here and say, hey, my product is good quality, is European. Yes, but as I mentioned before, this is not enough to sell the product. In fact, Chinese consumers are very sophisticated, are increasingly preferring domestic brands. We see, of course, also because of tensions, there is a rise of nationalism, patriotism, and there is this trend, which is called Guochao, which is Guochao nostalgia, where basically is an integration of elements from traditional Chinese culture in your products. And this is especially prominent in, of course, in fashion, luxury, but also food and beverage. Chinese consumers have different tastes and perceptions. And here, there are many anecdotes. And thinking about the the red tea put into the whiskey during tables, or you know, like wine drunk in one shot during dinners. And I think many people in the food and beverage think that Chinese people love European food and they will be very happy to eat it every day. I don't think so. I think, personal view again, I think Chinese people have it only occasionally. It's fine to have it occasionally, but don't think they want to have it every day. Another thing, many things that we take for granted in Europe shouldn't be taken as such in China. For instance, we all know the difference. We all know what GIs, product with geographical indications, are. We all know the difference between a Parmigiano Reggiano and a Parmesan made in Wisconsin in the US. Well, Chinese people don't necessarily know it. And this means that you have to spend a lot of time and resources in training the people, in training Chinese people, in educating Chinese people on why this GI is special. We mentioned, of course, competition and Chinese, actually many sectors, also high-tech sectors, Chinese companies have already caught up with European companies, and especially in low-end and medium-end segments, markets, maybe less so in the high-end markets, and it's actually in high-end markets is where China wants foreign investment. But if you operate in mid market or low-end market, maybe you will face a lot of competition from Chinese companies. Be humble, of course, you should always be humble. And there are a lot of resources, both from the EU, but also from many member states that are able to support you. And you shouldn't be afraid of engaging with such resources. Of course, the EU SME Centre is one of them, but there is also the IPA Helpdesk, which Jim is going to introduce later, but many other projects that provide free assistance to you. Another thing, don't try to trick Chinese consumers. They will find out, and if they find out, you know, your product or your brand is probably dead within a couple of days. And I'm thinking about one recent case of the Magnum ice cream, where Chinese consumers at some point, they realized that the Magnum ice cream sold in China are not made with fresh milk, but with with milk powder and water. And of course, they were very angry and started to boycott Magnum and so on. So in short, I think the European, of course, is still associated to high quality and safety, but again, these two properties are not enough to sell the products. You should also do something else. Be patient, of course. We all know China thinks in the long term, and I'm going a bit faster because time is running out, but succeeding in China is very difficult, so you have to have a long-term approach. And of course, you will make mistakes. Sometimes you will fail negotiations. Sometimes, don't worry. This is very frequent, and mistakes happen. Be resilient. Last, I just want to mention something, even though this is related from. This is not about European companies exporting to China, but it's European companies importing from China. Something that we see very, very often at the SME Center. I would say at least once a week or once a couple of a week, is that emails from European companies that have purchased from China, and they write to us, say, hey, I've been scammed. I paid in advance, I never received the goods, or the goods I received are with very low quality. What should I do? The answer is that there isn't much you can do. Of course, you can hire a lawyer in China, but it's going to cost you a lot. You will need to wait a lot of time, and probably you're not going to be compensated in the way that you expect to be. Or also when you export to China, there is you know, a lot of other things like IPR infringement, which Jim is going to focus on the next presentation. What I'm saying here is very important to do background check and diligence on any partners, and all these scams, actually, it's very easy to avoid them. There are some simple steps that you can do, and if you follow these steps, you will eliminate, I would say, 90% of potential scammers. First, you have to ask a copy of the business license. Then you verify the copy. You verify if the company exists, if the person you are interacting with actually works at the company, is authorized to conduct negotiations on the company's behalf. You should verify the chops, of course, but you should always avoid advance payments. If I think sometimes it's not hard, it's not easy to to choose other payment methods, but you should always avoid them and choose other methods which might be more expensive, like letters of credits or documentary collections, but are safer. And then another important thing is that there are many agencies that offer inspection services of cargo of goods before they leave China to Europe. And it's very important because once the goods leave China, there is very little you can do. You can also reach out to us, to the SME Center, if you want to have a background check on a Chinese company, or if you want to know what you can do to protect yourself. So all the things I mentioned here are things that we do on a daily basis, are services that we provide for free to all European SMEs and business organizations. If you want to know in more detail what something we have just mentioned, you can write to me directly, or to our general email, or submit questions through our website. We have one function called Ask the Expert. So all these aspects are are things we deal on a daily basis. So please get in touch with us if you have any issues, and good luck. That's it.
Thank you very much, Alessio. I believe that you have to run into another commitment. So I'm going to throw you a couple of questions that we have received before we jump into Jim. Which are the sectors that are most active in the EU SME Centre, meaning users of the website and participants in our activities?
Yeah, there isn't a we receive, we interact with companies from all sectors. Maybe the most common one are food and beverage, retail, cosmetics, but not only. We also have medical devices, green technologies. Recently, we started to do something in gaming and esports, but also ICT. So any sectors, and we have expertise to address any matters in any sector. So please come to us, even if you operate in very niche segments.
Thank you very much. And before you go, can you give us an example of a type of inquiry that we usually handle?
Yeah, right. I mentioned we offer this free service that we provide assistance for free to companies that need it. We have different levels of assistance. We have general assistance. For instance, companies come to us and ask how much does it cost to open a store on Tmall, or can you tell me which standard should I follow in order for my product to be compliant? But we also have more specific, more technical levels of assistance. For instance, the question on standard would be, hey, can you help me check the content of one inquiry we had 2 days ago? There was this company that asked us to check the content of magnesium that is permitted to be contained in beverage products. And we went to see the standard in Chinese, and we identified the content of magnesium, but also there is another question was last week, can you help me check if my product needs the China compulsory certification? Can you help me check if my product needs other certifications like the radio certification? Or another question is, what type of subsidy can I get from this city in China? So a lot of questions, also very technical ones. We have at the EU SME Centre a very wide network of experts that we put in-house and external that are ready to address your questions for free. So reach out to us again, do the self-diagnosis tool, which is very detailed and already provides answers to most of your questions, I believe. So so we look forward to being in contact with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Alessio. And now it's the turn for Jim, last but not the least, who is going to present the China IPsme Helpdesk, our sister project. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Laura. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. And I hope you can see my slides as well.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. First of all, before I start, a big thank you to the EU SME Centre for organizing this event. With the China IPsme Helpdesk, we've been participating in the Understanding China events for many, many years. I think it's a fantastic tool to sort of keep close track of the heartbeat in China, I suppose. What's happening? What's at play? What are the trends? What are the dynamics? What to watch out for, especially from an SME perspective, and for those organizations that support SMEs. So many thanks to Laura and the rest of the team for organizing this. Laura already provided the introduction. I won't spend too many words on myself. The China IPsme Helpdesk is an EU initiative that was started in 2008, really with the idea to give SMEs the tools to make informed and strategic decisions regarding their assets. Same as the EU SME Centre, all of our services are free of charge and are really there to support SMEs in entering the Chinese market in as safe a way as possible. Before I go a little bit more into depth into the services that we offer and how we can be of support to business support organizations, just a few things on intellectual property and why it's so important, sort of as a recap. IP is for SMEs really, and for large companies as well, is really your key business asset. It's a way to set yourself aside from your competitors. It thereby enhances also your competitive advantage and will grant you exclusive rights in various jurisdictions where the IP is registered. It's a fantastic way to attract investment as well. If you can showcase to a potential investor that you have a strong IP portfolio that covers trademarks, patents, strong trade secret strategy, it's usually a very good way to sell your innovation or your product and to attract further investment to grow your business. It ensures freedom to operate, so it reduces links, reduces the risk that is linked to technology commercialization, both in your home country and in third markets. And it gives you increased control and decreased risk when outsourcing. So if you have strong IP portfolios in place, you have good contracts with your suppliers, for example, in China, with your distributors, it's a better way to sort of control your supply chain and sort of decrease risk across the entire business process. As I mentioned, it can be the key to enter new markets. It's a showcase to sort of try and find new partnerships. Again, showcasing a strong IP portfolio will really go a long way into convincing potential partners of partnering up with you and ensure sort of more security and stability as you move along. It's very important when we talk about China and IP in general to keep in mind that IP is territorial. This is also where a lot of SMEs make mistakes. They assume that their trademark registered in Germany or in Italy or in Spain is automatically registered or gives them protection across the world, in China, in Brazil, in Thailand or Vietnam, but this is not the case. IPR is territorial, which means that rights registered in the EU, in Europe, do not cover China. And also, I think it's very important to mention that within China, there's various jurisdictions. So the IP system in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau are entirely different from the ones in mainland China. So this is very important to consider as well for SMEs. China is a first to file system, which means that the first person or company to file and complete the registration is the actual IP owner, no matter really who the original user is. And this is also where a lot of problems for SMEs surface. And it's therefore very important, and this is our really go-to message, that before you start doing business in China, to really think and strategize about your IP and preferably register your rights before doing business in China. Briefly summarized here, having an IP strategy is really a must, and adapt yourself to the specificities of the Chinese IP system. Very short overview, the different types of IPR, the main ones: trademarks, protect indication of the origin of goods; patents, protect technical features of a product and process. I think here it's very important to mention as well that in China, there's also a thing called utility models. These really protect new features of a product, very similar to invention patents. And a common practice in the Chinese system is the parallel filing of a utility model and an invention patent, because utility models are usually granted much faster and give you already some serious protection as you await the granting of your invention patent, which usually takes a bit longer than the granting of a utility model. So this is a specific strategy that also often we recommend, is to file utility models and invention patent at the same time to sort of enlarge the scope of protection and the time of protection of your product. Copyrights, trade secrets, very important. Protecting confidential information of your company and put in place certain measures to protect those and to control the flow of information within your company. It's not really technically an intellectual property right as such, but it's very important to consider for SMEs. Just a little bit more on trademarks. With the China Helpdesk, we've seen that most of the inquiries that we receive from SMEs are still trademark related. There's still a lot of trademark hijacking in China, meaning that Chinese entities register trademarks of European brands before they enter the market, and then will often ask for a specific sum of money to give that back, give the right to the use of that trademark back, which can at times be quite costly for SMEs. So once again, strongly recommended to register your trademark before doing business in China. Registering a trademark is not necessarily very expensive, so it's really something that we strongly recommend, and usually a first step towards a good IP portfolio in China. Register it soon as possible and consider also the Chinese name of your brand. Here's two examples of that, Coca-Cola and BMW. And using a Chinese name is really important for two reasons. The Chinese name is easier to remember for Chinese consumers. So either come up with it yourself, or somebody else will and might register it as such. And choosing a Chinese name can also give you the opportunity to sort of deliver a specific meaning to it. Here, the example for Coca-Cola, which means tasty and joyful. And for BMW, the same. The Chinese characters translate into precious horse. Layer your IP. Again, I cannot reiterate this enough. It's very important that you layer your IP and that you not only focus on trademarks. A specific product can be protected by various types of IP, by a patent, by a design, by utility model, by copyrights. So really don't hesitate to register those rights and to contact us for any clarification or for any guidance on this. But we strongly recommend to layer your IP and to focus on multiple types before doing business in China. A few words on attending trade fairs. Again, very important to prepare, have your rights registered, and assign a dedicated team to monitor possible infringements. We have various cases of European companies pre-COVID that would attend on-site matchmaking events and trade fairs in China, and that would see copied products being sold by Chinese entities. And then obviously being faced with almost sort of a fait accompli as regards to the options that they have to remove those products from the trade fair. There's usually IP stands and IP support offices on trade fairs that can help you. But if you don't have your rights registered in China, there's usually not much that can be done in terms of removing infringers from trade fairs. In terms of IP, before I go to the services of the China IP SME Helpdesk, a few main takeaways. Again, register your IP. There is no automatic protection, so you need to proactively register your rights in China. Don't assume for a second that your rights that you have registered in any of the European member states grant you protection in China. This is not the case. Build a bundle of IP rights. Don't just focus on one type of IP. Adapt to Chinese specificities. And here we strongly recommend professional advice and to work with qualified law firms and patent attorneys. Again, I think as a first step, the China IPsme Helpdesk can be very useful for you to sort of understand how different types of IP might apply to your product and your invention. But after that, usually our strong recommendation is to work with qualified lawyers to register your rights, or in case of enforcement, to take your case to a court in China. Very important, negotiate your contracts in great detail. Contracts with partners, distributors, suppliers, sales agents. It's very important that these contain clauses on IP. What are they allowed to do? What are they allowed to use? What are they allowed to share? Who's the rightful owner? It's very important to have this stipulated in contracts in case in the future there's a conflict. You can always grab back to these contracts as proof as well. And contracts are not there for when situations are good. They're always there in the eventual case that things go wrong. So negotiate your contracts in great detail and don't forget IP clauses in your contract. Now, just a few words on the services of the Helpdesk, which I think is very important. I think we heard before from VOCA and from Enterprise Estonia, who obviously help SMEs exporting and doing business in China. The China Helpdesk works with organizations like VOCA and Enterprise Estonia, trade and investment agencies, chambers of commerce, clusters all around Europe to support and reach as many SMEs as possible and to inform them about the importance of IP, especially in a complicated market like China. We cover China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. As mentioned before, each have various different IP systems in place with their peculiarities, and each require a different strategy. Since our inception, we have supported over 100,000 SMEs, and we'd be very eager to improve that number in the years to come. Now, what do? We have an inquiry helpline, which is an email address and also a phone number that SMEs can call at any given time during the day. They'll get in touch with our IP business advisor, who's based in Beijing, and he will respond to their questions within 3 working days. Here, it's also very important to mention that more recently, we've started one-on-one sessions, giving the opportunity really for SMEs to have a talk with our IP business advisor, usually of 30 minutes to 60 minutes, delving into their specific company or product, and to really help the SME understand how IP applies to their company. So this is also an option. If you're listening now in your business support organization and you're thinking of a specific company that's planning to do business in China, but whom you're aware of are not very prepared in terms of IP, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be very happy to arrange a one-on-one session with this specific company, or to organize a more broad training session with your organization. Training workshops, again, this is what we do. Now, obviously, a lot online. But if COVID restrictions permit it, we organize a lot of on-site events as well, where we send our network of IP experts and patent attorneys all around Europe and China to, again, inform as many SMEs as possible about the IP protection in China. Similar to Alessio and the EU SME Centre, we cover virtually every industry or subsector. So don't hesitate to contact us, even if you're active in a very niche sector. IP is important for all of them, and we can cover IP specificities for any sector and any industry. We've recently established a new website, which is fully integrated in the European Commission web environment. A screenshot of that later. And we have on this website a huge repository of information materials, guides, fact sheet on any industry, on any type of IP, and specific fact sheets per country. 2 examples, IP fact sheet on mainland China, and our guide on technology transfer with some key pointers as to what to look out for and how this applies to IP. Best practices, case studies to really visualize for SMEs what it means to do business in China and how IP comes into play. I think it's very important to mention that I obviously talked about China IP, but there's similar initiatives in different regions. So there's currently 5 IP SME help desks. More recently, a 6th one was added, which is focused on Africa. So the same services that the China IPsme Helpdesk offers are also available in Europe, in India, in Southeast Asia, which covers all of the ASEAN countries, 10 countries, as well as all of the countries in Latin America. And as I mentioned, more recently, the Africa IPsme Helpdesk was added to cover any IP questions of European operators in Africa. So don't hesitate to reach out to those initiatives as well. You see the link to our new website below, where you can find contact information and more information about the services that we offer. Stay connected. Follow us on Twitter for updates on IP legislation, LinkedIn the same. We have a YouTube channel where we upload all of our webinars. Again, a huge repository of information. So don't hesitate to follow us. And here just a quick screenshot of our landing page on the EC Europa environment with all of the 6 regions covered. And by clicking on each of them, you can find more information on the services and the info materials that they have at their disposal. I'd be very happy to answer any questions from the audience. Once again, a great thank you to Laura and the team at the EU SME Centre for setting this up. And if you're listening and you're an SME and you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to question@china-iprhelpdesk.eu or to reach out to us for if you're interested in organizing a training for your members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation, Jim. It is true, and here from the EU SME Centre, we reiterate the close collaboration with the China IPsme Helpdesk, as IP issues are key and essential for any business trying to access the market. We will continue this close collaboration, but we also invite you, if you are an SME, to reach out to them before taking any actions into the market. And if you are a business support organization, to discuss which kind of joint activities you can organize with them. It doesn't seem we have any question. I guess your presentation was very clear, Jim. In any case, you have here his contact details, so please feel free to reach out to them in case of any question or any support needed. Ladies and gentlemen, today today's presentation has come to an end. We would like to thank all the presenters for these informative and interesting talks, and for the audience for being present and also for your active participation. We are resuming tomorrow at 9 with more content into this program. We are going to be talking about blockchain, but also about digitalization, and our director is going to present the China economic outlook. So we hope to see you tomorrow, and I wish you a very good afternoon if you are in Europe, and evening if you are in China. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.